Hi. So earlier today, I was in my vehicle and I was trying to take video when I was driving for a couple different reasons. First, it gives me an opportunity to multitask in a better fashion so I can get more done in my day without feeling like I'm giving up one thing to do another thing. And the second reason I was interested in being able to record in my vehicle as I was driving is because I have a story that is probably one of the craziest, if not really the craziest story, which I haven't really ever experienced in my life. And that's really saying a lot because I've had some really weird things happen to me throughout my life. But this happened not too long ago. It was just a couple of years ago. And I was really going to do the video as I was driving home because this is something that happened to me on the way home from work. And I figured one night I would go ahead and just leave from work and start making a video to take you through my experience. But it's probably better for me to do it just in an audio anyway, for different reasons. I just downloaded this voice recording app. I have no idea how long it will record, what the quality is, if I'm even going to be able to transfer this to YouTube. I'm still practicing on all the editing and just gadgets that I can use for making videos and so forth on that channel. But at any rate, for the story, this happened on Super Bowl day. It was Super Bowl 2 years ago, not this past Super Bowl in February, or was it January, but it was the one before that. And let me just say, as I'm driving home now, that I think the voice recorder just went off. Again, I haven't used it. Nope, it's still working. I'm going to try not to wreck as I do this. I have experience with paranormal things, and I think I'm just going to say it that simply at this point. I really don't care if people think I'm crazy. That I may be, and if I am, it's not because of the paranormal experiences that I've had. But as far as interactions with UFOs and so forth, I've always joked about twinkle twinkle alien spaceship because there's clearly the things in the sky that you can't really quite make out, but never have I, my experience is pretty much with the spiritual paranormal, not the intergalactic paranormal. So when I had this experience, it wasn't something that I even quite discerned as it was, immediately afterwards. But I'm on my way home now, like literally right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and just pick up. As I'm driving down the highway, I'm in my vehicle, and at that point in time, the cluster on my dashboard was not working appropriately. So I could not tell how fast I was going. And I had come back from work, and I had one of my big German Shepherds with me. He was cuddled up in the back of the Suburban, and he never made a peep through this whole entire time. Of course, he usually doesn't anyway, but there was something weird that happened with him. But I really wasn't totally alone. I did have my one dog with me. And so I'm coming across a highway. It's an interstate, and it's night. It's at night. It was probably about 10:30 at night, and I can't really tell you if there was any time lost or not because I wasn't looking at the clock so intently to know. I can tell you it wasn't like if there were a few minutes that were lost, 10, 15, I wouldn't even be able to tell you the difference because I didn't really mark what time I left necessarily at work. But on the interstate that I'm on, I have to travel across a bridge to take an exit. And this is where I'm at right now, as a matter of fact, coming across this bridge. It's dark. That night was particularly dark. There was really no twilight whatsoever. And I notice, as I'm always looking around my rear view mirrors and my side view mirrors, I do notice a vehicle that's coming up relatively quickly behind me. And if you ever noticed police cars, especially if you're in a bigger vehicle, there's a certain way or brightness about their headlights that seem to be marked differently. And of course, now remember, I'm being very conscientious about my speed. I'm trying to gauge how fast I'm going, but I don't really know how fast I'm going because the cluster, again, on my dashboard is not working. As I take this bridge and I get over to my lane, it's one of those lanes where you have a very short time to get over, but it's no big deal. It's not like there's a lot of people here. And the cop car gets behind me. Now, when I take my particular exit, it's very windy. It's a curve, but it's like a 90-degree turn that goes along a wide turn. And one night I did get pulled over. I was coming around here, and this cop pulled me over. There were two of them in there, and the one tried to tell me that, asked me if told me he saw me throw a cigarette out my window. I don't even smoke. I didn't throw anything out my window. And then he said that I almost ran into a wall or something like that. And if I was drinking, I was like, they clearly, I wouldn't want to say they were harassing me, but I kind of thought it was funny. They were younger, and I was like, okay, guys, I'm packing first of all. And anyway, that's a whole nother story. But so then after the turn, I come down to the light, and the car's really close behind me, and I can't really see it. So I'm turning my head to see if I can tell if it's a cop car or not, but I really still couldn't tell. Now, when I make this bend, and I'm now off the highway, I'm now going on back roads to get to my house, it's even darker. And this car was getting really close to me, so I would speed up. And as this is occurring, I'm thinking more and more that it's not a police officer, but I'm also thinking about my friend who had a sister that was recently robbed on her way home. They have a restaurant, and my friend was telling me that her sister drove all the way to her home, which was like 30 minutes away, and someone had followed her. And when she got to the house, the guy came out and he actually shot her. He went to shoot her right in the face, grab the money, but the gun jammed, thankfully. And so I'm thinking of this story and thinking about if it's a police officer behind me and wanting to make sure I'm not speeding or whatever. Just so as I turn down yet another road to get home, and it's quite residential. There's going to be nobody that's going to be traveling along these roads that I'm on now, except if you're living on them. And again, it's about 10:30 at night, and it's on Super Bowl Sunday. So I notice right about this time that in addition to the car being picking up speed and kind of falling back a little bit afterwards, after I would speed up, that there was another car, and that one was right behind me, but then there was another car behind that one. So now there are two cars, and I feel like, okay, well, there's another car. And I'm like in my head driving, and I know a lot of times, especially if everybody takes the same road all the time, it's very easy not to remember driving someplace. You just kind of end up someplace. Everything is so automatic. It's not like you're going to really remember your specific travel time necessarily for any specific reason, especially if this is what you do day in and day out, day in and day out. Again, unless there's a reason to have such a memory of a particular day in which you're traveling that route. which is what I was experiencing at that time. So as I'm driving, and it's like every other road, a very specific, lengthy road, and this road's about 9 miles long. And there's some winds and turns, but it's, one road. It's not like you turn off of it. And as I'm driving down the road, and this car is picking up and speed, and every time it would pick up speed and get closer with its bright lights, I would hit the gas and go faster. And then I come to this one area, which I'm about to come up to sooner rather than later. And when I come up to this area, I always brake. I always brake. It's one of those roads where you'll see crosses on with flowers every so often because someone had an accident there, and you wonder, like, why is it one area that so many people seem to always have an accident at? It's just a little bit of a dip and a little bit of a turn. You wouldn't seem to be losing control of your vehicle by going over this, but nonetheless. But before I come to that area, I have a friend who lives along the road right before a little bridge, like a little overpass bridge. And like, I just passed my friend's house now, and I'm just now about to go over the bridge, and here I am. It says no fishing from the bridge. I'm going over a little bridge. There's water underneath because there's a creek and so forth. And now the bridge is so short, I'm off the bridge. So I'm off the bridge. Now, I don't remember particularly doing that evening when I did it the first time, and you'll understand why I say the first time in just a second. But my eyes are looking in my rearview mirror, and I'm noticing these two cars now, and at this point I'm just like, forget about it. I'm tired of picking up speed and slowing down. I'm not going to do it. When I go through this corner here where I always brake, when I go through this little bend here, the one I just said had all the crosses and flowers because of wrecks and so forth periodically, I figured I don't want to brake because I don't want my brake lights to go off, because at this time the car was far enough behind me that I figured, well, I just don't want to have them continue seeing me brake. I'm just going to breeze through it. So that was right at this point right now, and I'm applying my brakes. And then as soon as I come back up, I hit the gas and I continue going. But that particular night, I did not do it. Nope, I did not. I didn't want to hit my brake lights. I didn't want to continue braking because I'm thinking, oh, I don't want someone to pull me over for erratic driving or something, even though they were kind of picking up speed and falling back. So I'm coming around the one bend, and I'm looking in my rearview mirror, and all of a sudden, I see the car that was behind the car turn into a subdivision. And I see the other one turn the other way onto another street. And I'm in my head thinking, and I look up, and I do remember seeing the four-way cross sign, which is right before the street I need to turn on to get to my house. But I was in my head, and I'm not going to turn. I'm not even going to take my street. Like, I'm just going to continue on. Like, because this particular evening, oh great, now there is a car behind me. This particular evening, what I did was I missed my road. I missed the road that I turned to go down. And because I'm thinking about the car behind me, I'm thinking about my friend and her sister, and I'm all kind of wrapped up in everything. And then all of a sudden I realized, like, oh shit, I passed my street. I'm in a very rural area. And again, it was so dark. Like tonight we at least have a half of a moon out, but that evening we didn't have anything out. And I realized at some point that I passed my road, so I slowed down, and I'm looking. There's no other cars around now, and I'm looking to my left and I'm looking to my right, and I'm kind of going slower, and I'm concentrating on where am I, because I knew that once I pass my road, there is a street I can take to take me back over another way to get to my road, the back way. So I'm looking really, really paying attention, looking for this road because it's so dark. I'm not really used to it. And as I'm looking left and I'm looking right, and this is where it gets creepy, all of a sudden, instead of seeing that road to bring me down like that I'm on right now, that I just turned on, Croatan Road, I'm back on the bridge. I'm back on the bridge, not the main bridge from earlier, but the bridge, the little bridge that I said no fishing from the bridge that's right after I pass my friend's house, that really short bridge. And when I hop, and the thing is, when I'm on it, I'm just on it, like in the middle of it. I'm like in the middle of it. It's a very short bridge, but I'm in the middle of it. And initially, it was like when you wake up from a dream and you know a dream, and you can remember it for just for a second and it starts to fade. But it was almost like, wait a second, and I really had to think about it, like, what the hell? Well, how am I here? Like, this makes no sense. There was made no sense whatsoever. So first of all, you know, even if I understand people are like, oh, well, maybe you thought you had passed it or you weren't paying attention when you're going home. The thing is, I absolutely know for a fact, no matter what, you can say anything about that trip home, I wouldn't remember, but that breaking, or rather, not breaking, going around that bend, which is after my friend's house, after that little bridge, I didn't brake specifically at that point. And when you continue going straight, there is no way you loop back around at all. There's no way you loop back around. And not only that, but after I passed my road that I should have turned down, and I was going straight, and I said to you before I could make a right and continue to go to the back way to the house, which I just went right now as I continue telling you the story. I'm looking left and right. It was just black. It was just woods. There were just woods there. Now, had I really been at the area where I allegedly should have been before the bridge, I would have been looking to the left and right, and to the left, I would have seen my friend's house because she lives right on the main road. I would have seen it, but there was nothing. There was nothing. I was on this road, and then all of a sudden, I was back like 3-4 minutes before on that bridge. And there were no cars behind me at this point in time. At that time, when I had went over the bridge and I was still driving, it was right before, because remember I said I wasn't going to brake because the guy was still behind me and so forth. So at the first time around, they were still behind me. Both cars were. Neither one of them had turned off. But the second time, there was no one behind me, and I was just driving, and I was stunned. I mean, I was just literally stunned. I don't even know how else to say it. I felt like I must have been losing my mind. But I know what I experienced. I absolutely know that I know where my travels were. I know where I was, and I know what happened. And I mean, it's just such a crazy story, and I didn't even want to tell any of my family members really. And when I started to share the story, I just got the whole thing, oh, you're tired and whatever. It's like nobody believes me. And it's so frustrating. So I really just hadn't told anybody else. I think maybe I've only told about, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 people the story. And my daughter's the only one who, she kind of accepts the story. She knows, like, I'm not lying. She knows I'm not crazy, and she can't explain it. But, I did a couple Google searches on how do you Google search something like that. So I did, and there were a couple experiences people had. A couple about going on an elevator and something similar happening, and then another couple who was traveling across states, and they were put back like hours back. And I was like, wow. So I guess this has kind of happened, but then I'm such a hypocrite because I'll read other people's stories and think, yeah, they're probably crazy. I mean, I know I'm not, and I know what I experienced, but it's such lunacy when you hear the story. Like, what do you mean you were on the bridge and then you were on the bridge again? It's very difficult to believe. I understand that, but anyway, I feel like I need to tell this story. I need to share it. I would love for someone sane, to hear this story and tell me that they've had a similar experience, or maybe even explain to me what could have possibly have happened, because it happened. I don't doubt that whatsoever. And even though it's been a couple years now, when I tell the story, it's like I do relive it. I feel like it's yesterday, and I try not to think about it, all the time, and I don't. I come home this way every day. It's not like I constantly think about it, but this was such a huge thing. It wasn't just it wasn't just something odd. I mean, this was like monumental what happened. I mean, to me, when I think about it, this kind of changes everything I know and understand about space-time continuum and our existence and time. Um, and I wasn't abducted. I have no memories of anything weird happening. There was nothing else to add to that story. It was just as I just said it to you. It was like that. There was my dog didn't act up, and I don't have any grand stories about seeing alien spacecrafts or anything like that. I don't. There's no way to explain it, but I passed that point, and all of a sudden I was back on the bridge, and that's really the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life, and I'm sharing it now. Okay, that's about it, and I'm home, so have a good night. Bye.